Hello, international cat lovers. This is part 2 of the video. We're still Black Sun Empire. Misha, Renee, welcome back.
This is a track called Skin Crawler. We did it with State of Mind, and there's a singer involved from New Zealand called Tiki Tana, which is quite a famous singer, but he likes drum and bass, so I think he's actually the sound engineer for Shapeshifter. Yeah, we wanted to have a vocal track on the EP, and this is what it turned out to be. Maybe we should start with the vocals actually, because he's quite professional. He records more than one channel. He makes layers and already sends you stuff that is already processed, like has a little distortion layer on it. And of course, we wanted more, so we created separate channels with more distortion, more little effects on it, so we can play you a bit what the vocal sounds like.
I wanna love, you wanna hate, volatile, manipulate. I'm in your blood, you're in my vein, it's so fucked up.
So here you have the distortion layer of the vocal, the normal one, and then we reversed one, so you get that really eerie reversed, you get sucked into what he's saying and it feels a bit haunting. Let me see which one that actually is. Yeah. Or there's a little dub effect on it, and it makes it sound a bit freaky. Again, of course, a lot of people have the problem with the de-esser, but you can also multiband process it out a bit, so you don't have that peak cutting through your mix too much. What else is on there? Take the low end off again. That's basically what we do with a lot of sounds. That's a lot in the beginning. Producers forget to EQ every little effect, and sometimes there is so much sub on it that you actually don't hear when you don't have a sub speaker. And if you forget to check, it will interfere with your actual sub of your track. And yeah, we had that once someone sent us a final master, and then there was this one effect that would hit in, and there was so much sub in it that it would like distort like crazy. So yeah, EQ every channel if it needs to be EQ, but always check it. That's it. Yeah, on the channel there's an RVox compressor, just to make everything compress everything a little bit, not too much. What else is on there? Another multiband to take the high end even out more. Yeah.
I wanna love.
A little bit of delay. We do a lot in the end of the vocal to keep it go, like keep a loop. You bring out the mix, and then it'll just create this repetitive percussion sounding vocal loop, which gives a lot of energy, or it can give a lot of energy to a tune. I think that's what we did here. Here's a.
Yeah, show the effect on the drop.
Energy and take with you your fucking negativity.
You get that. Makes it sound a bit like a train. Makes it really driven. It's good.
Yeah, that was just done by putting a delay on the whole vocal track, dub delay, and it will EQ it as it goes on. And then we took a little part of the whole delay track from the waveform and just looped that up and processed it a little bit more. And that's a good trick to do that. Just let it roll, and because when delay changes over time, it just becomes more interesting as it goes along. So sometimes after like 5 or 10 seconds, you will have something that sounds really cool and distorted, and then you can take that bit. And you wouldn't have otherwise had it if you just had like a short delay or something. So
yeah. As you can hear, he already processed himself. There's a high end, and there's already something really low on it. Or did we do that? Yeah, no.
he made a pitch shift version.
Yeah. So he made a pitch shift version with an octave lower to give it more body. and make it sound a little bit darker,
More spooky.
more spooky. Yeah.
Have been crawling under my skin and I
Yeah.
can't breathe. You've
Anything
taken
else from the vocal? It's basically the vocal part, I think. Nothing too special going on.
the
I think
oxygen.
this is he recorded his riser himself, which is quite cool actually. It's like an, well, yeah, it almost sounds like a trumpet, but it sucks you into the drop. It's good. Yep. So that's basically the vocal. Vocals can be really hard when they're recorded really bad. Then you basically have to ask, can you do it again? Because fixing a badly recorded vocal is basically impossible. At least that's what I think. You can always hear it. But luckily for us, he knows what he's doing. Where was that little percussion thing that was interesting?
There.
Yeah, again, like we like having little percussions in the intro, so it's easier to mix as well. It gives you time. It's good for DJs and stuff, but we like it to remain interesting. So this is just this percussion thing, and yeah, playing with like a mono delay makes it go out of time a bit, but that's why it's interesting and not just a standard little loop. So you can see we automated the mix on this, and the timing is
And the
real
feedback
fast.
is super high. So
Yeah.
it just creates a tone of itself.
And then there's this company called Melda, which makes really interesting, crazy plugins. Sometimes it doesn't work at all, but it can make your sound stick out a lot out of your mix, or make it like this is a frequency shifter, make it sound so different from the original. Like you can hear it without it, it sounds like this, and it sounds quite. We
Dull,
wouldn't,
yeah.
dull. We wouldn't have used it this way, but here it's like, oh, this is and you can play with the dry and wet. And you can see how much it shifts. It's really interesting. People should check out their website. I think most of them are free, or all of them are
The
free.
ones we use are free.
The ones
Yeah.
we use are free. Little bit of reverb, and just an EQ again, and then play with the delay. It's also really nice for techno stuff. This is another sound we made. It's in Search again. Intros. Sometimes I found it hard to make intros because it always leads into like a breakdown before you go to the drop. So this sound is a really slow riser thing that actually goes up until the very end of where the break starts. So it causes you to slowly get sucked into the part where it becomes really interesting. Again, there's a comb filter on it. LFO is doing a little bit, automating it. Is there something on the pitch?
That one, 4.
Yeah, and then the LFO4 is actually on the pitch, so
Over 16 bars goes up.
yeah. And then it stays the same.
Yep.
So yeah, you get this, the energy rises and rises. And this synthesizer is just great. So many, I mean, you have 5 LFOs or 6 even, and you can just automate everything you want, or you can do really crazy stuff with it, distortion, and it is an easy synth because there's not a lot of hidden tabs where you lose yourself. Like, is there another page? Some synthesizers you have like I have to
Menus and stuff.
unfold different menus, but this is just real easy to work with, and it still makes you can make great sounds of this. It's great. This is actually a tune I started, so there is still some MIDI in there. Actually, just to load up a snare drum and a kick drum, and we layered. Most of the time, we layer our kicks and snares. So this is the main. These are the main kick and snare, which will sound like this. And when it comes to drum and bass, your snare is very important. Like most of the snares have like a peak around 200 or in between 200 and 300, gives it a lot of punch and body to it. Unlike 4-to-the-floor music, where your snare is most of the time on top of a kick already, so you don't really you only need the high part, the high end of the snare, the claps. And here it's really important to remain that body in your drums. So yeah, it's quite loud, as you can see. And then it goes to. We try to have all our drums go to one drum bus, have our cymbals go to a separate bus, so you can put different reverb on it or different sidechain them more. Yeah, and then most of the time we have an effects channel for the reverb on the drums. This way, not too much, because drum bass is so fast. If you put too much reverb on your drums, it becomes real mushy. So you need the punch, but you also want that little bit of the live feeling of the drum kit, or it becomes really like synthetic sounding. And then there's another channel which has a little saturation on it, give a little bit of a distortion layer to it. The drums, when you don't put like reverb on it, they can sound quite synthetic. So we always have like a little drum verb buzz. This one we used a Valhalla. We use it a lot actually. It's a great reverb and not so processor heavy, so you can use a lot of them in your project. Some reverbs can be really heavy, so but if you only use it for a tiny bit of reverb, you don't really need the best sounding reverb. It's
quite crunchy, so it's sort of really easy to identify in the mix.
Yeah,
and it's not super clean sounding.
Yeah, and so this is with and this is without. Oh, there's actually two actually. See, this is without. And of course, after your reverb, because you don't really want to put reverb on your bottom end of your drums, so it's important to take off the low end of your drums. And in this case, we actually have another reverb on our drums.
And that is a clean sounding one.
And that's the Steinberg reverb itself. And I actually, this actually does more than the other one. And then the same. Take your low end off, and because like this it sounds quite synthetic. Sometimes when you think your drums are not punchy enough, they don't cut to the mix enough, they don't have enough punch, you can create a New York channel to actually make the attack, the transient stand out a bit more, and you generate a bit more punch. So that's basically what we did here. It's a real quick compression. And that's basically what it does. You can hear it. It's just basically the punch of it.
Yeah, the New York compression allows you to use more compression than you actually normally would on the bus, but you use only a part of it. So you use the fader to just use it to 50%. So it's really over compressed really, but then you only use a little bit of it. And usually you take out the attacks. You just only have the release of the sound. So you just have the body of it, and you use it to, make it more audible.
Yeah, and we separate most of the cymbals from the drums, put like a sidechain compression on it, make it sidechain from the kick and the snare a bit. It gives you that natural groove.
That feeling of when it's recorded on basically just one track, and the rides only come in like where the punch is not from the snare and the kick. So you just fill out everything between all the other drums.
Yeah.
That's why we use sidechaining.
Yeah, and if you don't do it, it's can start sounding real German. Everything is at the same volume. You kind of miss that human element of this can be done live. Because we only, like, the main thing is a kick and a snare, and if you want that live break feel, you kind of need to have like live recorded breaks to give that groove or to give that that feeling. So this is an old school break sampled from an old school
We don't
record.
know where.
We don't know where. So without it would sound like this. There's ghost snares, it gives it a little bit more of a human feel already, but with that little loop, it becomes different, like more natural. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's nice to have like really static, steppy drums, but this tune, we wanted to have it rolling more. And there's so many layers. Shakers, rides. Yeah, so this is basically without all the cymbals. And then, yeah, we use a lot of rides, separate shakers. Yeah. Another old school, actually it's a whole break. But we took away the whole bottom part and you just have the high end of that little break, and yeah, it gives them more energy. Again, sidechained from the kick and the snare, so it fits in better. Oh yeah, and when it comes to the kick and the snare, we always have them on, I hope that this is the case this time, always have them on a separate channel. Like, we don't compress the kick and the snare on the same channel first. We have a separate snare, separate kick, and then send them to the same buzz. Because most of the time they need different EQing and different compression. Yeah, so you make it easier if you actually separate everything and then bring it back together again, instead of trying to fix something together. If your snare is okay but your drum needs more high end, you want it to be able to do that without interfering with the snare sound. So this is the, let me see, I can go back, this is the kick. Where's my snare? So yeah, basically on the kick, let me see, there's an EQ taking out the actual total, the bottom end, but making the body of the kick a bit harder. Having a gap here so the snare has more room that will be filled in for the snare because it's around the 200 hertz, and then having a bit more top end, because otherwise it would sound a little bit dull. Again, a little bit of compression to have a little bit more punch. And what is this? Oh yeah, another nice another nice plugin from Steinberg. It's the envelope shaper. Here we actually made the transients of the mid-range section. Let me see what frequencies this is. Between 1500 and 1000. Make that stick out a bit more. Yeah. Don't think you'll notice it too much, but a little bit. It all comes in detail, I guess, and I think, let me see what we did with the snare. Same, take away the bottom end. Here was too much, 200, so we took a little bit out. And here, again, the envelope shaper, but for a snare it's really important to have that attack, that punch on the 200 hertz. So here you can see that we have a little bit more attack, so the transients stick out a bit more. Like, it hits harder. Without it, you can hear it becomes a little bit more flat. Yeah, it's interesting techniques to make your drums more crisp, or actually heavier, maybe too heavy sometimes. Here again, make the 200 part mono, the rest remain stereo. yeah, that's basically how we process our drums. In the intro, we have this little melody coming in, leading into the breakdown. It's made by Diva from Yui, great plugin. Has a little bit of an analog feel to it. Has different filters built into it, so you can choose. Some are really crazy and some are pretty basic. The one we just had was pretty basic. Yeah, you can put like an envelope on the cutoff or LFO on the cutoff, generate everything you want really. Unlike Surge, it has more hidden menus and tabs, so sometimes you kind of get lost when it comes to oscillators and stuff. Also, it's nice he has different types of oscillator generations. One is like 3 oscillators. This one only has 2, sorry. Again, 2. So if you change the way which type of generators you use, it totally changes the sound of the synthesizer, which is interesting. Sometimes you have a synth, and if you just want to see how it sounds differently, you just change within these different type of oscillator generators, and it becomes something totally different. I'm not sure which one we had. I think nope. If you can hear, now it sounds like this. And if you
Yeah, I think you reset some.
I fucked it up.
That's okay. Oh, there we go.
So see, it's quite a big difference. This is pretty standard, just a square, and it's a short sound. So if you open it up, it starts to sound real horrific. So short attack, basically, yeah, like a little plucky sound. And again, I think because me and Renee like techno quite a lot, so we use a lot of the little delay things. Again, here there's a ping pong delay. Makes it really stereo when you modulate the mix of it. You see that we do that, and yeah, gives that strange out of time feel, but opens up the stereo image of your track a lot, which is cool. Again, we use EQs a lot as filters as well, just automate a high pass with a little bit of resonance, and then yeah, you can just use your EQ as a filter. That's also quite an interesting thing. You don't have to use 2 different plugins, but you can just do it all with one if you want. Little bit of multiband.
Yeah, that should add more transients to the high part of the sound.
Yeah.
Make it more plucky.
Yeah, you can hear it. Not too drastic. Here again, a little bit of tape distortion. This is on the entire sound. You can use a multiband and decide which kind of distortion you want, or which part of your frequencies, but wasn't really necessary. So it's just on the entire thing. The glue, make it stick out a bit more. H delay, give it that stereo feel, and you can play with the mix as well. Becomes really stereo, so just decide what for you sounds best. A different kind of reverb. Interesting. Without it, it sounds pretty boring. This makes it sound real lively, and yeah. And limiters, never enough limiters. Take out the peaks a little bit, make them manageable. Yeah, and it sticks through the intro, the mix. And then when we enter the
I wanna love, you wanna hate, volatile, manipulate.
is there anything nice with the bass line? this is basically the main riff of the track. That's what we started it with. Unfortunately, it's bounced already, so I can't show you how we made it. But after it was processed, we put more distortion. That's what we do a lot. You process a sound, and then even though it was originally distorted, sometimes adding more distortion makes it even better. So that's what we did here. Here there's a multiband distortion, because the low part we didn't want to clip, so there's a clip control distortion which kind of keeps the sub part of the sound intact, and then you can fuck up the mid range and the high frequencies differently. And you can play where you situate those. So basically you don't really want to distort your sub part too much. And a nice little chorusy reverb from Valhalla makes it real stereo. Otherwise it's really mono. And this widens up the whole sound. However, we thought it was a bit too thin, the sound itself. Like, we like layering things. So we layered it with a Surge, just a lower end bass sound. It has 3 oscillators. So there's a little LFO on each oscillator, like 1 and 2, and make it come up more. So you have that little modulation in the attack, so it feels like it's pitching.
And a good trick for getting sort of distorted sound, like old school jungle, is to add just a normal, just to your normal sound. Basically, you add an octave below or 2 of sine, and then 1 above. So you have a lot of harmonics in the low end and the high end. Then you put some distortion on it, take the mid out a little bit, and it sounds like one of those old crunchy jungle sounds. So yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah. And there's a little bell in it, I didn't even know. So yeah, that gives it a bit more body. And then there's another layer, to do something else in the background and no stereo image. We bounced it out and put a lot of reverb on it, and it has a band pass on it, so it's just this one certain area of your sound that you can hear. So it's really stereo. It has a Uber mod on it again, because without it, it's real mono.
Delayed as well, yeah.
And delays it as well. It's a nice plugin. So yeah, that's that sound. And it fits right in between the vocals. So. Yeah, again, just before the build up, like have the kick drum rolls come up, and then this time we have a little A-Moniz break filtering in to slowly, build up the tension. Like the other channel, we didn't use a filter, but just an EQ that turns into a filter. Basically, it's the same thing. Yeah, and then. Something else that we kind of stole from EDM scene is have that little clap. It's quite unusual for a drum and bass track, but we thought it was fun. Have that little clap come in, generate it. Like you want to clap along to it. Might be a little bit cheesy, but it works. It's we like to try different things from different genres, so and and let's go to the bass section of this tune. They're all bounced. Let's see if we did something special to it. Again, because this was a collaboration, most of the bass sounds were rendered already. We like to, when we do collabs, already make sounds at home, so you don't start from scratch, because that can be a difficult way to start, because we all know kind of how the beginning of a tune is, you know, having a kick drum, snare drum. So it's always nice to directly dive into the creative part of making a track, instead of being the super nerd and diving into how your transients or your snare drum should sound. So, and the same goes with bass sounds. It's nice to already have pre-processed samples and from different tunes, and you won't recognize it, but it already has that whole the body to it, and it already is shaped the way you want it shaped. And you can, of course, put more distortion on it if you want, or multiband. In this case, there's a multiband on it because it had too much highs. Here with the stereo imaging, we made it mono on the sub end. You can do it in different ways. We tend to do it in different ways, but it's an easy way to just make your sub part real mono. The bass all go to a same channel. And a good trick is to actually, when you want your bass to sound more stereo, have a bass reverb even. In this case, it's the same that we did with the drums. Have the whole channel go to an FX channel, have a reverb on it, put your mix on 100, and then afterwards EQ it again. And we did it twice actually, and the other channel we distorted more, so the high end of your stereo image of your bass becomes different. We distort it, then EQ it, then put a nice little D16 plug-in on it, so that it modulates itself. It's we always try to experiment with these plugins. Sometimes it works out real well, and sometimes it doesn't. But this phaser, yeah, that makes it. You can hear it. Makes that top stereo and different. Widen it up even more. And yeah, that's basically it. Make sure your stereo image doesn't have bass. And then there's another channel, actually, especially for the distortion part of the mid and the high end, to make the bass sound more distorted. Like without it, it's really a soft sound. To fill the rest of the spectrum, we generated a separate effects channel that actually, like without it, it would be pretty boring. Let me see how the tune sounds without the distortion. It's real subby, and with the distortion it becomes more energetic. Well, we're talking about the bass section. Unfortunately, everything is bounced out and sliced into different sections. And we try to use a lot of different bass kind of steps. So it also helps with the way your bass line sounds, or it modulates. If you use different types of hits, it remains more interesting. Continues having the same sound. It makes it hard to actually keep a tune fun for the whole 64 bars, or so unfortunately these are all bounced out, so can't really go into detail too much. What I do think is really important, like when you start producing, is how you organize your tracks. If you don't use bus groups or separate effects channels, if you all run them through the same kind of channel, it becomes really hard to clean up your mix afterwards or dive back into your tune when you haven't touched it for 6 months. Also, if you organize it really well, like when all your bass sounds go to one buzz and all your drums go to different buzzes, like if you want to change one sound, it won't interfere with how the rest of the track sounds. So I think that's a really good tip. Be quite organized, otherwise you'll have a lot of trouble actually mixing down the way you want it to sound, because if everything interferes with each other, it's just take away a bass hit that makes your sub duck. Yeah, that's quite hard to replace it then. So yeah, that's one tip. What else is nice? I really like percussion in music. Having drum sounds that give a little bit of a different groove to a track, and this sound was generated. It's just a simple percussion sample loaded into. It's a Vengeance sample, actually, loaded into Kontakt. Have it pitch like over your whole keyboard, so you can play a different note if, each time, or you can find the right key you want your percussion to be in. Then there's a little compression on it. Then there's again a reverb from Valhalla on it to make it bigger sounding. And I really like, when it comes to percussion, I really like the CamelPhat, because you can distort nice, but also have the cutoff play with the sound. So yeah, through the beat, it just slowly changes, and you can hear it. It remains like your drums will remain interesting, and there's a little automation going on, but it's subtle, but it is good. Let me see if you can hear it when the drums are playing. So that's the. So yeah, you get that nice groove. Yeah, make sure play with the EQ, play with your resonance, because sometimes your resonance is too big and it will hurt your ears. And here on this is again the free Haas. It's a nice way to make your sound real stereo. Yeah. It's always nice to have stereo elements in your drums, otherwise it becomes real, yeah, unlively.
So that was the end of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out our SoundCloud, check out our Facebook. We have a new EP with State of Mind called The Violent Five. It's out now worldwide, so please get it, and I hope you enjoyed these other videos too. Thank you.
He's so good at